Welcome to Samantha's Beauty Confessions, where we engage in authentic conversations and confess everything it takes to turn our dreams into a reality. Together, we'll unlock your unique beauty and guide you toward living the life of your dreams. Get ready to go beyond the highlight reel, embrace the journey, and grow together, one conversation at a time. Welcome back to Samantha's Beauty Confessions. Today, I am so excited because my friend Sally Lemmo, who you all may know as Cleveland Hair Boss, is here with me. And she is just an awesome human that I actually got to meet in person for the first time in June. So we were just Instagram friends before that, but then we met up at Premiere Orlando, and she has just a very powerful story. And I am so thankful that she's willing to share it with all of us. So hi, Sally, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, gorgeous girl. Wait, that's so funny that when you say we just met in person in June, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that was the first time. Because
you're like, we've known each other forever.
I know, it's amazing because Instagram, if you allow it, there's like this community and this really personal experience that can happen, and like relationships can build so intimately. And I feel like we had that. And so I'm like, I guess we did only hug for the first time a month ago. Oh my God.
Yeah, for the listeners, Sally was actually at a booth getting a hairstyle done on her from bioprogramming devices. And I didn't recognize her at first because she has a lot of hair. So she was like under her hair, and someone like tapped me and I looked at her and I was like, oh my gosh, I like screamed. It was awesome. So social media, like you said, is just, it's crazy the amount of people and friendships that I've been able to make, and you've been able to make just from an app. It's crazy.
Oh, it's crazy. So thankful for it.
Yes. So tell us a little bit just about who you are, what you do, maybe how you got in the industry to begin with.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I have been behind my chair for over 30 years, which seems crazy. I was 7 at the time, clearly. And so it's crazy because I'm actually a barber. I'm not a cosmetologist, but my career, I just think our industry is the most beautiful, most giving industry in the world. I've been able to seriously reinvent my career every 5 to 7, 8 years for the last over 30 years. And I've never had to leave it. To me, that's like the most ultimate gift. And I see so many people around us that they change careers and they have to leave what they're doing in order to evolve. Right. And so when I was 19, I went to barber school. I, hated my life, hated my job. And my aunt's like, why don't you go to barber school? And I was like, well, let me think about this. I love men. I love touching men. I love flirting with men. Okay. I was going to find a husband. Right. So I ended up finding like the love of my life, which is what I do. And it just opened this portal for me of serving that I just really never knew existed. And also, I mean, I don't know how many of you out there, and Sam, maybe you can agree with this. I mean, I for sure think I have undiagnosed attention deficit disorder. I'm the queen of starting things and not finishing them. And when I discovered hair color, it was like, holy shit, like this creative thing for me that I had been needing to be nurtured and fulfilled my entire life happened the first time I did hair color. And it was like, wait, I started something and finished something in 3 hours, and oh my God, and it was fun. And it was like all these things. And so that was how I went from barbering and into this world of hair coloring. And so I started out behind my chair full time, evolved into salon ownership. And then I've owned commission salons. I've owned booth rental salons. I now own an advanced academy. And so that's what I say about the evolution. And so I've moved more into full-time education now. However, I spent decades as a full-time stylist, a full-time salon owner. And so I feel like I've really been given this gift of time to experience almost every facet. And now I've moved into the influencer world as well, which I'm like this accidental influencer. Like I did it backwards, like I was an educator first. I educated for Redken, and then I was the global color ambassador for Lanza for over 7 years. And up until just this past March that I decided that it was time for me to invest in my own education because it was growing so rapidly and at such full force. I needed the time to invest just in that. I wanted to reach every hairdresser, not just hairdressers that were committed to a brand. So doing that has been, again, unleashed and unlocked a whole nother door. And so that's a little bit about me. So I was an educator first, and then COVID hit. And that's when my followers started to grow, because I moved from posting things that made me feel good about my work to serving the audience that I had, and really working to create connection and serve them in a way and meet a need that maybe was missing, because we were also disconnected at that time.
Yes.
And that's where this accidental influencer thing kind of came in, and it's unlocked so many other doors for me.
Yeah, and I think too that I didn't know that you were a barber. Now that when you said it, I kind of remember us talking about it once on the live we did together, but I had forgotten that.
Yeah.
But I think what a lot of people don't realize, or maybe they do, but my mom owns a cosmetology school, and she has barbering program and cosmetology there. And really the only difference is the cosmetologists learn the skincare side and nails, whereas barbers, they don't, right? But you do learn color
Well,
and all of the stuff.
so I don't know if it's different from state to state, but so I'm in
Okay.
Ohio. And
Uh-huh.
so in barbering, I can do facials. Believe it or
Okay.
not, we do facials in the barber chair. We learn all of that stuff, but I'm not licensed to wax, and I'm not licensed to do nails. It's like kind of weird. But the reason
Okay.
I think we are able to do facials is because we shave.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's that part of it, right?
Yeah,
So
I could be getting that part wrong with Oklahoma's licensing. I knew the nails weren't, but I couldn't remember whether the facial was.
yeah.
But yeah, the straight razor side of it. Did you ever do that stuff? I think that
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah, and I loved it.
You did?
Yeah, I don't know how well I would be at it now. I don't know that anyone would actually trust me to do it, but
Yeah.
I used to do it all the time, and I loved it. It was, you know what? And you want to know what's crazy? What I loved about it was I loved serving the client. Like, I really did love barbering for a while. I loved doing men's hair. That just, we kind of evolve into the next things. I really
Right.
don't do men's hair anymore or any of that. Just because it's not my calling anymore. But I loved the ability to just give like my client at the time, just this experience that was just really unique and different, and that made them, there's only so much you could do with a haircut. And so with a guy's haircut, this was just elevating something and just made them feel so special.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, and another thing you said too that's interesting is that you did it backwards. So when I got in the industry, I always say that I went to college first, and I always say the reason is because of what I'm doing now. Like, I needed to kind of to spend those 5 years after graduating high school to let social media take off, because I feel like social media, like I was kind of made to be a content creator. I love that stuff. Like you said, I have ADHD, and so it fulfills that side of our brain. But I'm curious how you kind of, someone who didn't start out with social media, how you jumped onto becoming an influencer, because that's really, really awesome.
Well, and so it was a really uncomfortable place for me for a while, because I'm also a lot older than the average influencer. I'm 50. I just turned 50 last year. And being surrounded by a lot of the youth, I think when you're my age and when you've been in the industry as long as I have, we have a choice. And it's either we stay where we're at and we stay dormant and we allow ourselves to feel irrelevant, less than, and just continue doing what we're doing until we just don't do it anymore, or we allow ourselves to be open and evolve and learn from the ones coming up from under us that have this technology right out the gate, that have no experience other than having Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest. Like, I grew up without it. I was pimping myself out in 12-inch heels all day long. We're walking up to people,
walking around,
talking to them, right? And actually going up to them and saying, hey, I want to do your hair, that doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
So when COVID happened, when we had lockdown, so I'm a very passionate educator. I love our industry so much. And it's through the gift of educating that I think my passion and my purpose is able to come out. I just love my babies. I love everyone in this industry. And I love all people, but this industry specifically, I feel like I've been given this gift of being kind of dropped in it. like, I don't know if you know this or not, but I wanted to be a youth pastor, like for a real long time. And God would always close that door for me. And I always say I think it's because he knew he couldn't trust me not to say the F word from the pulpit.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
like, I know where I'm going to put you, right in the hair industry,
Yep.
where they love that shit, you know?
Which really kind of is in a way. I mean, I know it's not like the exact same, obviously, but we
Yeah.
are helping people and we
Oh.
are like really influencing our clients behind the chair just as much as
Oh.
people do on social.
And you know what? That's a whole thing I would love to talk about in a minute. Like we'll get back to that, but, and it has the influencer thing leading up to that.
Yeah.
So when COVID happened, I had this like dread, this feeling of dread. And it wasn't, I wasn't afraid of COVID. It wasn't like, it's like when everything locked down, I was afraid for our industry. I was afraid for you. I was afraid for that professional hairdresser behind the chair, because it was like, oh my God, like what we do keeps us connected in every single way. Like we touch people. We provide all 5 love languages. If you really think about that. And that's
We're
like
like the only people that do, but
we really are. And
doctors.
it's unbelievable. Well, think about it. Like we're the one place that like we provide all 5 love languages, and you actually leave in a better mood. You actually leave feeling empowered and happy. You don't get that when you go to the doctor. You don't get that when you go to the lawyer. You know what I mean? No. And so I was like, oh my God, I have to do something. I want to help stay connected. So I said, the only thing I know how to do is teach. So I started a private Facebook page, and I had like 100 people in there. I committed to showing up live every day. It was supposed to be only 2 weeks, right? Every day for an hour, and I taught. And it helped us to stay connected. We all were able to still have a community without like seeing each other. Well, then lockdown continued. And I was like, I started to, at the time, my page had maybe 2,000 followers on it. And I really was posting to grow my clientele behind the chair, to grow my salon, to grow the people in my salon. Well, I kind of had evolved past that. And I started to post to serve you. I started to post to serve the hairdresser, and I started posting videos and how-to videos. And I started showing up live, and I started showing up very unapologetically, unshowered, feeling afraid. Not like it didn't matter. The makeup, it didn't matter. I just started showing up my most authentic self and serving you, and not necessarily making it about me. And I swear to God, Sam, it was like I went from 2,000 to 30,000 almost overnight. Okay. And so now it's up to over 80,000. And I just continue to try. I really work to keep my mindset on serving who I have and who has chosen to specifically follow my page. And I know that whoever is for me and who's supposed to come to me is going to come, and whoever is not going to. And I just want to be that vessel that serves who has been called to the message that I've been trusted with. And that is education. That is how to, make your life better behind your chair. How I'm very passionate about strategic placement and strategy in that regard, and sharing the why behind it. And I really work to, I hope that it translates in what I share on my page, which has allowed me to evolve into online education and things like that, and in person. So that's how the whole influencer thing came. And like I said, I was like this accidental influencer. So most influencers, not all, but most, get the following first, and then they start teaching, because it's like, that's the next step. Like you have all these people that want what you have. How did you do this? And so then you start teaching. Well, I had been teaching for 20 years. My father put me in Toastmasters when I was 11.
Like, I love that.
My
boyfriend talks about Toastmasters all the
time. Isn't that crazy?
I love that.
I know, like while my friends were outside playing, I was like public speaking to 70-year-old men. I know, but who knew that was going to serve me at this place of my life, right? So I can stand on a stage in front of thousands of people, and honestly, I'm not afraid. I've been, God has allowed me somehow to develop a courage and a skill set in understanding we're all the same.
Yep.
I'm not better than anybody else.
Literally hardly anyone has, I would assume, naturally. So that's like a really awesome, like your dad's.
Well, the number one fear is public speaking.
Exactly.
Right.
I know.
Second
so
is
many
death.
people. Yeah, it's crazy.
People are more afraid to public speak than they are to die. Right. And so, and I love it. I think there's something for me about reaching who needs it. that is so much more important than ever being embarrassed by what other people that don't need it will think. And I think that is what happened to me with social media was I stopped worrying about what people thought and worried more about reaching the people that needed what I had, because I had allowed myself to stay bound by what I thought people were thinking about me for a very long time. And some people that weren't even thinking about me at all and didn't give a shit about me. And I really allowed myself, even at I was like 47, 48 at the time, to really worry about what like people were thinking of my talent or this or that. And I had some experiences leading up to this that really were really painful and really and they were in the industry and with some people that really beat me down and made it their mission to let me know that I wasn't good enough on a continual basis. And it was when I finally stood up too, and this also led up to COVID, and I took a step back and chose myself and said, you know what, I have a message. I love what I do, and I'm no longer going to allow anything outside to take away from what brings me absolute joy. That a lot of things started to shift.
Yep. Because honestly, that's what I love too about your page is that you do show up yourself. You get on there in the mornings and you go on a walk and you let people come with you and you're like, look, I'm just going to be me. This is who I am.
And I got eyeliner all down, mascara all down my face. And I'm like,
that's something this world needs more of though, because I know, a lot of people, like you said, public speaking is right there next to fear of death. And if you have that natural ability to be on stage in front of people and you have that natural like passion for helping, then I mean, you're just the perfect influencer in my opinion. So I love that you've been able to do that. And that your dad, like I would love to know kind of his mindset behind putting you in Toastmasters so young, but that is just so smart.
He was in it. And I you know what, that would be a great, like, I should ask, I can't believe I haven't really asked him that before. But that would be a great conversation. So more to come.
When you were 11 though, when you were doing that, did you like hate it or did you like it?
So I don't think I hated it. It was so long ago. I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember being the only kid there. Right. And I do remember, and we're Greek. So I grew up Greek. And so, it was like most of them were Greek. And so, and Greek men can be somewhat intimidating, especially when they're older. Right. So, and then my father entered me in these contests, these public speaking contests. It's called the St. John Chrysostom public oratory something or other. And when I was 12, I placed third out of the United States and Canada. And I was the youngest one. And like, literally I was so small, I couldn't reach the microphone. They sat me on the Archbishop's lap. Like it was my father's proudest moment, like as a Greek Orthodox man, to sit on the Archbishop's lap and give a speech. Like it was like his shining moment. Right. And so, I don't know if that was the goal for him or what. I don't know. That's really fun. That's a great question. I'm going to have to ask him. I don't
make him go live with you. And
I should. That's actually a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And so I kind of want to like shift because, you had figured out you got diagnosed with breast cancer. Was it like a year ago?
So I had a double mastectomy, last year on July 13th. And so I got diagnosed in I think it was March-ish. Well, officially, the official diagnosis was, I think it was May 16th.
Okay. And it was breast cancer though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was breast cancer.
So whenever you first got diagnosed, will you just kind of share a little bit about that day, that moment, whenever you found everything out and kind of what your initial reaction was and what happened from there?
Yeah. So it's crazy because I no one ever, I don't think anyone ever thinks they're going to have cancer. Right. And so I was, 49 still at the time. And it was like 5 a.m. I'm an early riser, I had my cup of coffee. I'm walking in the dark up the stairs. And all of a sudden I heard this voice. It was like audible. Right. And that's only happened to me 2 other times in my life. And it was like, you're going to be 50. You need to start taking better care of yourself. You need to check your boobs. It's time to grow up and be an adult and take your health seriously. You need to check your boobs. And when I tell you, it was like such an overwhelming thing. I was like, And then I thought to myself, I was like, all right, maybe I should check my boobs. And so I went upstairs, I put my coffee down, I took my left hand, I went right here, and I found a lump immediately. And it was kind of deep actually. And I was like, what the hell is that? I was like, oh my God, that's like hard and it's not moving. And so I had my husband, I was like, hey, can you feel this? And he's like, I think you need to get that checked. Well, then I let it go for about a month. And I just kind of was like, maybe it'll go away. Maybe it's for my period. Maybe I have menopause, that kind of stuff. It didn't go away. So I reached out to my primary care doctor and we were going to do an MRI. Well, then my MRI got canceled. I had to wait almost 2 months for that. And that was in May. They canceled it as I was walking out the door to the appointment. So then they got me in for an ultrasound like within 2 days of that. And I've gotten ultrasounds before. And if everything's okay, they tell you, they're like, okay, great. We'll send you the results. If there's any questions, the doctor will call you. That's not what happened here. They were like, okay, the doctor's going to come in and going to talk with you with some other people. There are some things that we're going to go. It was like that uncomfortable thing, right? Like, wait, something's not right. And so I went in and got a biopsy, and that's when they had said it was breast cancer. And my first initial was, of course, I think, fear of, am I dying? I don't know. I have kids. I have a husband. I have things, Yeah. But then I will tell you, and this might sound weird, but within a few days of that, I really developed this overwhelming peace. And I almost felt honored that God would trust me to go through this and hopefully be a beacon of light or healing or whatever message it is. Like if I need to go through this because he's trusting me to either be strong enough or to have the tools or to have the voice or whatever it is, to meet someone where they're at that maybe doesn't have that. That I was honored enough to be trusted with it. And so I was able to shift into that. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't struggled, because this mental thing has been really hard.
For sure. Yes.
I'll be honest with you. It's been very, very difficult. There's like layers of this I never saw coming. I don't know that anyone can ever prepare you for it. But it's crazy because when I was getting the biopsy, my husband was with me and we're looking up at the ultrasound, and what the heck is it called? The tumor was in the shape of a perfect heart. It was in the shape of a perfect heart. And I just felt like that was at that moment, I felt like God was telling me it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay. It doesn't mean it's gonna be easy.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be okay. And so, yeah, so that I chose to get a double mastectomy because, well, first of all, they told me a mammogram would not have found this. A mammogram.
That's what I was going to ask if you were you getting mammograms regularly though?
Okay, I was not. I hadn't had a mammogram for 7 years. I am not that so I tend to lean more into like the holistic side of medicine. I am so thankful for Western and traditional medicine. I think everything has its place. I just happen to lean more towards like natural solutions and things like that. So the radiation always scared. I didn't like the radiation, whatever. And I chose to get thermograms, which is just a different type of thing. And honestly, I let time go by. I am the queen of busy, run, keep going on to the next task, check off the list. Well, all of a sudden it had been 7 years and I hadn't done anything for myself. And I feel like, so I had a thermogram almost 1 year to the date prior to finding the lump, and it wasn't there. So this formed within a year. And that particular year was one of the most stressful years of my life. And I wasn't feeling good. I had never been so tired. My skin was turning gray. My eyes are like a hazily green color and they're pretty light. They were actually turning brown. It was like things were happening in my body and I was traveling a ton. Like I remember my legs were so heavy. I struggled to run through the airports. Like it was just, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I was getting these weird fevers. I would spike a fever of 101 for 6 hours and then it would go away. Like all these weird symptoms, of course, at the time I was like, God, I have COVID like every freaking month, because I would spike a fever. And then it turned out I had cancer. And so,
And it's crazy that you said that your eyes and everything changes, because for anyone listening, like when your body's trying to tell you
oh,
something, like it's
listen,
trying hard to tell you, and
hard.
sometimes we're busy and we don't take the time to sit there and pay attention. And it's just like, look, girl, like we're trying to let you know
Yeah.
something.
I'm trying to like wake you up to see. And when I tell you after my surgery, once the cancer was removed from my body, like my eyes are lighter and brighter than I ever remember them being.
Yep.
It's the craziest thing. And people actually will say to me, they're like, you look so different. You look so different. It's like like my skin isn't gray anymore. And it's like, I don't know, my body, you can just tell my body's in a place of healing, which I'm really thankful for.
Yeah. So you didn't have to go through chemo or radiation or anything like that?
Because I caught it so early, and that's why I am now this
That's so
advocate of
awesome.
check your damn boobs. My stage was stage 1A, which is lower than stage 1. And so, like I said, a mammogram wouldn't have found this. So if I were getting mammograms, and again, I'm not saying don't get them.
Right.
If you feel that that gives you peace of knowing, then do it. But if
check too.
you need to check too. It can't be the only solution, because like I had dense breast tissue. And so this was so small. It was only 1 centimeter. Think about how small that is.
Yeah.
1 centimeter. And honestly, by the time they would have found it through a mammogram, it probably would have been stage 2 or higher.
Yeah. See,
Before a mammogram would have picked it up.
one of my best friends actually, about a year ago, I think a year ago in April, she got diagnosed stage 4 breast cancer, I believe. Is that the stage? It had already like spread through her body places.
Metastasized, yeah, that like makes me sick.
So, and she kind of noticed something, but it wasn't like dense enough, or like she didn't think about it again, I guess. But
Sure.
she says that she kind of knew in the back of her head that whole time she needed to get it looked at. Yeah. And I think it was either 3 or 4 when she got it, and she had to go through chemo and radiation and all of that. And she just had her mastectomy maybe like 3-4 months ago, and she's actually about to get like the reconstruction and stuff done.
Is she? I opted to not do reconstruction, at least not yet. I couldn't wrap my brain. I couldn't wrap my head around all of that. And, again, I guess probably me leaning like towards that natural side. I was like, I already had something foreign in my body. I wasn't, at least at that time, interested in welcoming anything else. And so I'm learning how to live in this new body. It's definitely been difficult. Right. But for me, it wasn't in my lymph nodes. So that's why I didn't need chemo or radiation, because it was localized, and I caught it early enough that they took 3 lymph nodes on this side and 1 on this side, and it wasn't in them, which is 99% chance that it's nowhere else in your body. And so that 1% definitely holds me hostage, though. I'll be honest. I don't know that there's a day that I wake up feeling like, oh my God, is it somewhere else? It's terrible.
I can't imagine. So do you have to go in now like routinely just to get scans and check to make sure that 1%'s not?
So not scans, and that I'll be honest with you, that's the part in the traditional medical world that I feel like is the follow-up maybe could be a little different. And of course your insurance and like all that stuff. I'm going to see my surgeon for my 1 year in a week, I think. But that's really just to make sure everything's healing well and like all that stuff. So as far as scans go, I'm going to go get another thermogram because it's been a year. And thermograms are it's a radiation-free alternative, say a mammogram. And so it checks the heat in your body. And if there's very severe temperature changes, that means disease could be present, or the conditions are there for disease to be there.
Okay.
And like when the cancer lit up like no other on this. So I would like to go get another one. I'm going to commit to that every year. Because it scans your whole body, and then you can,
have
go
peace of mind. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So at that time, did you continue working, taking clients and things, or did you decide to take some time away and just kind of like heal and process and just be?
After my double mastectomy?
No, before, like right after you found out.
No, I kept working. Yeah. And it was hard and I was tired, but I think I needed it. And plus I had a lot of travel already booked. I had so many things going on. I was, as I shared earlier, I was the global color ambassador for Lanza. So I had I had committed at that time, like 40 contracts a year of travel. So I was gone almost every weekend. And so my double mastectomy was July 13th. I think I did my last class the first week of July or something like that. And so then I did take off and allowed myself to heal a little bit. I went my first class with at the end of August. My surgeon told me I could go back to work after 6 weeks. I don't think I should have, to be honest. It was, I think physically and mentally, I wasn't ready. But you figure it out and here we are.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that a lot of hairstylists too think that, whenever we kind of have been conditioned that we need to leave our problems at the door, our personal life at the door. Did you feel like because it was like a 3-month span from time that you found out you were diagnosed until the double mastectomy?
Yeah.
Did you feel like your relationship with your clients during that time, like they were super supportive? Did you feel like they changed at all or anything like that?
Well, what's crazy is I had some experiences with a few clients that were not as supportive as I would have expected. And then I had some experiences with some clients that were so much more supportive than I knew our relationship was. And so it's like, and there were two in particular that I had been doing their hair for decades, literally decades. And you realize we went to like weddings, funerals, like we experienced life together, right? It's like when something is going to get in the way of their hair and that appointment that's important to them, I had the harsh, brutal reality check that I was just the hairdresser. And I did eliminate those relationships from my life from that point, because it was such a brutal awakening, that the sacrifices sometimes I think we as servants and givers and lovers and make for the people that sit in our chair, when you develop the harsh reality sometimes through experiences like this, that they're really not our friends sometimes, right? But then you have those ones that show up
when
and
you
it's
didn't
like,
expect it.
oh my God, I can't even tell you, like the food that was delivered, the hours on the phone, the coming over, just, sending, bringing books. There was this one girl and she's a professional hairdresser too, but she drove up 2.5 hours away, brought me this big box of all this stuff from everyone that worked at the salon to help me get through the healing process, the most giving, and then there's the ones that you drop everything for that you would have expected to reach out. How are you doing? How are you feeling? That are like, well, I saw the writing on the wall, so I found someone else to do my hair. After 25 years of seeing them every 4 weeks, and you're like, wow. So that's where I think in our industry, it can be easy to get caught up in the relationship of it sometimes, and forget that, we are working for someone. If someone's your friend, they have a lot of times don't pay you to be their friend.
And I
that's a
love
harsh
too,
reality.
that you said that you no longer do those clients, but because it's important. And I think that's one good thing that's come from everyone opening up more on social media and being more vulnerable with their feelings, is that our clients are starting to realize that we need stuff from them too sometimes, it's got to be a transactional relationship, mutually beneficial, to where it's not just one-sided in every aspect of our lives, but especially when you've just gotten diagnosed with cancer and your life is literally just kind of flipped upside down and you're trying to process it in real time while trying to take care of their needs, and I just think that it's a good shift in the industry that we're finally feeling able to express our needs as the hairstylist instead of just leaving those needs at the door like we were told to so long ago,
Well, COVID, COVID was a really rough thing for all of us, right? But I think there were some positives that came from that. And for our industry specifically, I feel like what it did is it gave us permission to take ownership of how we experience what we do behind the chair. And honestly, I feel like my generation of hairdressers, I'm a lot older than you. I think I could be your mother. And so my generation of hairdressers and before that, we owe everyone in our industry an apology, like everyone that came up after that leading up to COVID, because, and, you know, I loosely say that we owe everyone an apology because I mean, I was taught in this industry, you don't say no, you adjust to your client's schedule, you do whatever they want, you charge, you'll charge by your feelings, not by facts. And you stay late, you compromise your own health, you compromise your own life, you compromise your relationships to build this clientele. And, you know, I guess we can say that served me sort of, because I was very booked behind my chair. I was booked, you know, a year in advance for decades. And what didn't serve me though, leading up to that, and you know, and then, you know, having a salon, then I was teaching the people that worked for me to double, triple book, do all these things. And again, nothing wrong with that if it works for you. But I was so tired and I had nothing left to give when I got home. And I have kids and I had a husband and and let's not forget, I have myself that I didn't really even recognize was important up until I got cancer. And so, COVID, I think, really gave us permission to say no, and it's okay. It gave us permission to adjust our lives to what fit our lives and our health and our self-care and our relationships, and it's okay. And so, but I will say some of the negative I've seen from that is like my least favorite thing on social media is seeing client bashing. And so I think there's a positive to the fact that we as professionals now understand that we need to work through facts. Our pricing has to line up with that. It's okay to adjust your schedule to what works for you and your life, and boundaries are healthy, right? But at the same time, honoring our clients and still being grateful for the fact that they're choosing us, and that it is a partnership, and we have taught our clients leading up to this point that it's okay to text us at night. It's okay to ask us to come in on a Sunday. And we are afraid of charging our worth. You don't really need the products because I'm afraid to show them to you. Like we have to own that. I think we have to own
definitely.
that. Is there some undoing to do in the client and professional stylist relationship? Because we truly have taught our clients to think we are unlimited and unlimited access. We are unlimitedly accessible. And I do see a lot of that on social media from a lot of top influencers that will share things like, you know, don't text me at night, don't do this. Who do you think? And I'm like, well, hold up. We taught them that.
We teach people how to treat us. Yep.
You know, I mean, and Sam, you know, that's like my biggest thing. We teach people how to treat us. And so if we've taught them how to do that, we need to teach them how to not do that. And so that's where learning healthy boundaries and learning how to say no in love, learning how to move forward in your business structure to what serves your life first in love and not in offense is what's going to really like keep our industry growing in a positive way instead of filled with resentment and regret and hate and negativity. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, cause you had just mentioned about like the boundaries and stuff. And I know that you just shared a video about all of your one-shot nominations and all of the like feelings that you had on that and how awesome and great it was. But I'm curious because you mentioned in that video that you felt super uninspired. You thought about, you know, how are you going to continue in the industry and how are you going to like balance your self-care needs with your business. So what was that process like as far as like your logistical brain and your emotional brain? How were you able to kind of balance those two things and push through during that really difficult time in your life to get on the other side of it?
So so last year when I was getting my double mastectomy, you know, there were the one-shot words. And I had leading up to that, I, you know, had been posting and that was another thing, honestly, that kind of kept me pushing while I was sick and waiting for this double mastectomy was creating the content, creating the pictures, really working to create this beautiful hair. But I had done the wrong hashtags. And so none of my work had gotten in those folders. So I didn't even enter. I didn't know, but I didn't even enter. And I didn't know until they started announcing the nominations, and
And
I
you're
didn't
like,
see
wait,
any. And
what's
I was
going
like, well,
on?
maybe, hey, maybe it wasn't good enough. Maybe they, whatever. And then only to find out, like, I think you might have been one of the people, like, there were like 5 or 6 people that reached out. They're like, you used the wrong hashtags. Oh my God, they didn't see your work. And so, and then I was like, you know what? It's okay. I really had this sense of peace at that time because I had cancer and I
Mhm,
needed to heal. And so it kind of like gave me permission
mhm,
to not be stressed about it. It allowed
mhm.
me to focus on going through the surgery and all that. And it allowed me just to be the cheerleader. It
Yep.
allowed me to just cheer on those that I loved, right? And so as I started after the surgery, the physical part wasn't as hard as I expected it to be. I really thought it was going to be really hard. It wasn't quite as hard as I expected it to be. It was the mental and
Mhm,
the loss, the feeling of loss. No one, I've heard of other people going through this and they immediately were given counseling. They immediately were giving all these things. I wasn't given that. For whatever reason, the experience I had was like, it was like they took my boobs and kicked me out of a moving car and said, good luck. And I rolled off on the side of the road and had to like figure out this new life. And I never realized how much my girls meant to me
mhm.
and what an important part of my identity they were.
Yeah.
And the first month or two wasn't so bad, but then reality started to set in. And I got very depressed,
Mhm,
very, very depressed. And like to the point where like I was at a very dark place. And I wish I could say my family and my friends were enough at that time, but honestly, they almost weren't. I mean, thank God I had a little one at home. Honestly, if she wasn't there, I don't know. I don't honestly, it was really hard. And I had never experienced anything like this in my life. And I was going to quit doing hair. I felt like I was going to quit the industry. I felt like I had nothing else to give. Like when they took my boobs, a part of my identity was taken from me. A part of my purpose was taken. It's hard to talk about without getting choked up. So I'm sorry.
no.
Because it's such a hard, lonely place.
Mhm.
And
And it wasn't your choice, you know? I
and
think
wasn't my
that has a
choice.
lot to do with it.
Yeah. And the reality was, is I was amputated. And you don't
Mhm,
really think of it like that, but I had like they were my girls. They made me who I was. They made me a
mhm,
woman. They fed my babies. They like I remember getting boobs and I was so excited, and they were there with me through so many things in life. And when I think about it now, I actually wrote them a letter. I'm going to share it eventually, but I wrote them a letter to say goodbye. And I'm like, I never got
mhm,
to really say goodbye to you and really thank you. And it's like they were protecting me in the end. Like so many people say, well, my boobs tried to kill me. And I'm like, well, no, actually mine protected me in the strongest way
mhm,
possible because they kept it there and it didn't go to my lymph nodes. Um, and I had to say goodbye and I wasn't
mhm,
ready. And that was really hard for me. And so then the one shot awards came around again. And I literally, Sam, when I tell you, I would go weeks without showering. The thought of like getting out of bed and standing in a shower, like, I don't know, I couldn't even do it. I mean, the clutter, I had posted some videos online, my office, my closet, like the clutter around me was so loud. And I was struggling to function as a person. I honestly don't know how I was showing up to work and stuff.
mhm,
And I don't remember it. It's kind of like I blacked out, a lot of it I don't remember. But then the one shot awards started again. And I was like, I don't know. It was like, all right, you know what? I'll do one. I'm going to try
mhm.
one. I'm going to do a little, and each time I finally had something that to look forward to,
Yep.
something that um, allowed me the freedom to enjoy what I do, allow me to dig back into that place of purpose. And it
Mhm,
was like I had a reason now. And again, it like I don't want to say I feel guilty, but it was like my purpose for most of my life has been in this industry. And I really felt like it was taken from me, like my purpose was taken from me. And I was like, okay, I don't know. It gave me a reason to keep going. It gave me a reason to try it. It gave me a reason to stay connected to my friends and have that community. And it gave me a reason to show up on social media again and allow myself to be excited about something and all of that stuff. So for me, these one shot awards this year, again, I'm so thankful for the nominations. I'm like shook by it. I can't even believe it, but it wasn't about that for me. This year, it wasn't about that for me. It was, I mean, even if I don't win or I don't care that honestly, I mean, I will be so honored and grateful should that happen. But, it was the sense of purpose and the possibility and the pushing me in my craft to try harder and all of that. And being surrounded by a community of stylists online that were doing the same thing and that were encouraging me. I can't tell you how many people were checking my hashtags. It was so funny. They're like, okay, you're good. Like daily, I would get tagged. You're good. You did it. That I'm so forever grateful for that this even exists, because like, this is what I needed. It showed up. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. The, just all of it. And so I don't want to say that's what like broke me out of this depression, but it was an integral part, honestly.
No,
It was an
I
integral
fully,
part.
I mean, somebody like, I fully understand what you're saying, because, and that's why I texted you when I saw your live, and I
And
was
then
like, I'm
so
just sitting
sweet.
here crying watching this, but I feel like when you're at that place, and you're in that deep hole, it's hard to get out if you don't have something kind of motivating you. And yes, friends and family and kids and everybody can support you, but you know, not to like put their support, not to like not acknowledge it or whatever, but like if they haven't been through exactly what you're going through, it's hard for you to even grasp that they could understand it, the depths of it. Cause I feel like you really can't understand it until you've gone through it. You can
Well,
empathize with people, but you can't understand it.
it's true. I mean, you really cannot have true compassion for something
Yes.
until you've gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I've shaved people's heads before. I've
Mm-hmm.
had people with cancer in my chair before. I get it way different now.
Yep.
I understand the fear now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Um, I, I've had people with severe depression sit in my chair. My father struggled with severe depression. I never understood it before. I really thought, oh, well, just go do something for yourself or go to therapy or, take a pill or, I never struggled with it. I didn't understand the depth of it and how dark and lonely that place really is until I experienced it. And I get it now. And I have a completely different level of compassion for people that struggle with any type of mental illness. And so that's where, like, for me, it's like, why does God allow us to go through certain things? I don't know that he causes everything, but he does allow for us to experience and work through and heal through certain things. And so maybe it is for me to have this level of compassion because our industry is so serving and so giving and there is so much community. And when I tell you, I can't get over how many people reached out to me that were going through the same thing I was going through, that had experienced harder areas that I was going through. And that just by me showing up, allowed them the courage and caused them to have the courage to keep going. And so it's like, when we're in that like dark place, like for me, somehow these awards and everything that was attached to the awards. So I don't want to say just the awards, but it was like everything that was attached to it. Like my friends that were doing it too, Instagram, the seeing the inspiring work, just all of it. That was the light that showed up and that I was able to see through the chaos. And so my hope is that, like, through that message, that if you're in a dark place and if you feel like you just want to give up and it's just too hard to keep going, like, if we can give ourselves permission, and we're the only ones that can do that, if we can give ourselves permission to kind of look around and look for that light, it's there. I promise you it's there. And it may come in the form of an award show. It may come in the form of a pet. It may come in the form of a YouTube teaching you how to cook. Like we don't know, but there's going to be something. There's going to be something. And I do believe that this was God's way of like really saying, I see you. I see you. And you're not alone and it's going to be okay. And this is divinely for you, so that you can get your courage back, so you can get your strength back, and so that you can find your purpose again. And so I don't think that anybody is immune to that. And we all have that opportunity, and God willing, we're able to see it.
Yeah. And I'm trying not to cry right now because everything you just said, I didn't have the same exact experience as you, but I went through a crazy divorce. And, for the listeners, that was my first episode that's coming out with this podcast. We're filming this a little in advance before the podcast is released, but my first episode, I'm saying basically what Sally just said, that behind the chair for me too was that light at the end of my depression. And so when I was watching your live the other day, I literally was just so emotional, and I'm getting emotional now because it's so true. And it sounds silly to say that, like, that something out externally brought us so much joy, but really it showed us that we were still living, that we were still on this earth, that we were still capable, and we were still worthy of having the life that we had prior to whatever situations happened. So it could be a pet, it could be anything, but yes, you just have to open your eyes a little bit and kind of let it come to you, because sometimes if we just seclude ourselves off too much, like, we can't allow that light in. We have to be open to receiving the good things as well, even in dark times.
I agree. And the darkness can be really heavy, really heavy, and exhausting. And sometimes I think that, we can get just so tired. And through that exhaustion, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, it can be hard to have the strength even to open our eyes to see it, in all those ways. And so, like, that would be like, if there was a message, and not that you were asking for one, but like, if I ever were hoping to push forth a message of hope, it would be that, like, if we can somehow muster up the strength to just look around us and look for the light, look for the light, because it's there. It's there.
And that was a question I had, is what message would you give to anybody?
Yeah.
I did have that question. So I love that you just naturally answered that. And
well, one of my biggest things in hair is I teach is we need the darkness to see the light. Right.
Yeah. On hair.
And sometimes, and that transitions to, dimensional hair color and all of that kind of stuff, but it's really, really so true in how we, and I don't want to say we need the darkness, like, cause that sounds like, well, wait, I don't need all this pain and I don't need all of this stuff. Granted, it may not feel like you need it, but sometimes we may not be able to see the light without it. And so if everything was easy breezy all the time, it would be impossible for us to experience the true gratitude of the blessings that we have, and the gifts that we have, and the love that we receive, and the relationships that are so giving and serving. And it would be impossible for us to really push forward and give, because if everything was just great all the time, we would just exist. And that's not why we're here.
We'd be robots.
Yep. And that's not why we're here. So that's why I say, like, so even if there's so much darkness, there has got to be light somewhere. It's impossible for it not to happen. It's impossible for it not to be there. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that. I think that that's like a really powerful place to end this. And I definitely want to have you back on to talk more about, like, other things. Cause you have all of these awesome experiences and stories. And I loved talking to you, and I love that you were willing to share, because I know so many people are going to be impacted by this, and hopefully know that it's so important to give yourself checks at home, and not just to depend on doctors and devices and all of that too. We have to do it ourselves. But tell everybody where to find you, anything you have coming up, just whatever, plug away.
Thank you. So my Instagram and my TikTok are Cleveland Hair Boss. And so I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, if that didn't give it away. And it's Sally Lemmo on Facebook. And so I would love to stay connected with you through social media. There is a link in my bio that if you click it, it shares all of my upcoming education. I do a lot of in-person education. I have a Hair Boss University headquarters in Hudson, Ohio, where I do a lot of one-on-one in-person teaching, and bring in educators to teach also. But and then I do have my online subscription, which is called Hair Boss University, where I post a new video every other week. It has over 70 in there right now. I just am very passionate about growing our industry. And I also am aware that not everyone lives within the same price point for continued education. And so I really work hard to provide it at at every level and every level of intensity also. So my subscription is only $10 a month. And then I have in-person classes that are going to be super intensive, and that's where you get me, in person, up close and personal. And so my current tour is called Placement with Purpose, and I'd love to see you there.
Yes, everybody buy tickets to her class, follow her on Instagram. She is the best. And truly, I just can't thank you enough for being here. And
Oh, Sam, thank you for inviting me. It's really been an honor, honestly. I love you, girl.
Okay, y'all, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to follow the show on whatever platform you're listening and leave a rating and review to show your support so we can continue growing together. If today's episode really resonated with you, you can always share it to your story, and be sure to tag me so I can personally thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you again next week.